What's up, guys? We're back here. Got a Chicago Bears 7-round mock draft coming at you. Looking at this team, Chicago Bears made a pretty good playoff push. Almost beat the Rams. Just missed when Caleb threw that interception. So, looking at this team, quarterback set. You could potentially look for a running back, maybe a trade up for go get Jeremiah Love. Other than that, I don't see a replacement at running back. Wide receiver, you just need depth. You have your 1 year 2, and then Ja'Day Walker seemed to have sort of broken out with Caleb Williams last year at the end of that season. Tight end, you're set. At tackle, you kind of have your tackle set, your guard. You potentially need to bring in a future for guard, and probably both guard spots for a future. Biggest need for me is getting pass rush from that defensive line. You have Montez Sweat, you have Oda Yingbo, you have a decent defensive tackle room, but you're not getting pass rush out of this defensive line. Also, looking at this, you signed Devin Bush in the offseason. You have TJ Edwards. You have Noah Sewell. You have Ruben Hippolyte from last year's draft. Potentially look to bring in another linebacker. And at corner, you have Jalen Johnson, very good corner. You have Tariq Stevenson, who has shown flashes at times. And you bring in a guy like Kobe Bryant. You also have a guy in Cam Lewis, who you just brought in. So you replaced your whole safety room. I would look to bring in a young safety as well. And overall, and you have Kyler Gordon as well in your slot, who's one of the better slot corners in the entire league. Overall, I think this team needs just a few pieces after missing out on guys like Trey Hendrickson and not being able to trade for Max Crosby. Still on the table, but I don't believe the Raiders will end up moving Max. So it's looking like the Bears will have to move through the draft this upcoming season. All right, at pick 25, I think depending on how the board falls, the Bears could jump up with all the draft capital that they have, but with how the board fell, that's not going to be the case here. Two of the biggest needs for this team is pass rush through the defensive line, and that's through the defensive tackle and the edge rusher position. I think Peter Woods is definitely a very good player. He just had a very down year last year because he had lost weight and was growing into his body. I think that will be completely fixed going into this upcoming season, having training camp and everything with an NFL team, get him fully set. Also, another guy, Akeem Messidor, a little bit short on the arms, but that's fine. He's also a bit older. Let's go through this. His overall size score was not great, but based on how he played at Miami last year, especially late in the season and going into the playoffs, he was huge. He can line up a 7 tech. That's something that the Bears could be looking for. I think overall, a guy of Peter Woods' caliber, talent, and also having that as one of their top needs, I think you take a guy like Peter Woods. Alright, looking here at picks 57. This is the first of 2 second-round picks that the Bears have. After taking Peter Woods, I think we got to go a guy like Cassius Howell. I could also see a guy like R. Mason Thomas. 2 guys who exceeded well in passing downs and getting to the quarterback, something that the Bears extremely need. The only issue with them is their size. Cassius Howell, I think I would take him higher. Outside of the arm length is a little concerning for him, but it's also the same thing with R. Mason Thomas, and that just comes with their size. Cassius Howell is kind of like that Hassan Reddick type player, and I think has very good value to go potentially at the end of the first round, but more likely at the end of the second due to his overall size. So I think taking Cassius Howell at 57 helps get you a guy who can get after the quarterback on passing downs. Now, at pick 60, I think this is a good offer from the Broncos. We're also going to look at what's available. Trading back 2 spots, the Broncos could potentially look to take our guy. I'm looking at a guy like Josiah Trotter. Now, is a 21 pick jump worth potentially losing out on our guy? I'm not so sure about that. We're going to quickly check what else is available. Safety, there's a lot of good safeties available. I think waiting till pick 89 can also wait for a safety. Also at wide receiver, we have a guy like Antonio Williams here, who would be a good wide receiver 3 for this team. But I'm just going to pass on him for now. Also a guy like Mike Washington Jr. Very good testing day at the Combine. Let's also look at his Senior Bowl. Was extremely productive at the Senior Bowl. Also a guy like Emmett Johnson, could look for him later, or other guys later. Personally, I'm going to take Josiah Trotter, brother of Jeremiah Trotter Jr., son of Jeremiah Trotter. Both play and have played for the Eagles. Josiah Trotter, very young, very explosive, and is overall seen as one of the top linebacker prospects in this draft. I think getting him at pick 60 for this Bears team that had just released Tremaine Edmonds, to get a guy to go with TJ Edwards and Devin Bush is very valuable. And the biggest thing for me is that with his age, he can wait a year or two and sit behind those guys while they play, and you get developed and learn from them. Alrighty, pick 89. I was going to look for the offensive side of the ball here, but with how the board fell, not much that I like here. I'm looking at a guy in Jalen Kilgore. Could also look at Zakee Wheatley, but I think a guy like Jalen Kilgore, who can play that nickel spot and play deeper. He's never going to wow you with any of his game, but is very consistent and does not make many mistakes. So a guy like Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina works here for the Bears. All right, as we get to this pick, we have received an offer from the Browns. I think this is too good to pass up. We're going to go take that trade offer. Now, as we wait for pick 146, let's look at the board. I want to really go offensive side of the ball here. Just get some help here on the offensive line. A guy like Fernando Carmona, he sticks out to me. And a guy like Jake Slaughter. I think with these next 2 picks, we have the next 2 picks. We could take, honestly, both of those guys. So let's take Jake Slaughter here. And then 3 picks later, we're not going to take that. We also can look at wide receiver to hopefully get another guy. A guy like Jeff Caldwell very much sticks out to me with his overall size and testing. 6'5", 216, running a 4.3, and a 42-inch vertical. That's insane. Also at defense, a guy like Torrin York could be very interesting. A guy like Michael Taffy A guy like Romello Height, all those guys, very solid. But I think with how this team is built right now, I think a guy for the future in Fernando Carmona is something we should look for. All right, pick 241. I think we're going to go a guy here who I haven't scouted much before, but now just looking at his profile, I think could be an absolute gem, especially in a Ben Johnson scheme. Noah Whittington, running back out of Oregon. He's pretty good at everything, like pretty decent at everything. Could be a guy who can back up Kyle Monangai when DeAndre Swift is not there, or just be an overall depth piece to that offense. He's all right in the pass game. Like, he doesn't play much passing downs, but that can be developed. And overall in the run game is very good. Size is a bit low, but he can also pass. He can be a pass blocker. So, I think that's a good pick. A good steal for the Bears there at 241, as they have seen over the past year where they like those late round steals or undrafted steals. Overall, as we finish the draft, a little quick draft recap we got here. I like how this draft has fallen. A lot of defense to start, and then we finish it off with 3 offensive picks. Helped out that defensive line passing down wise with Peter Woods and Cassius Howell. Helped out the front 7 and for the future wise and Josiah Trotter. And then helped out the safety room with Jalen Kilgore. Then offensively, we got 2 offensive linemen and Jake Slaughter and Fernando Carmona. 2 guys who I think can be the future at offensive line in Chicago. And then taking Noah Whittington, who can be a potential absolute steal in the late 7th round. Overall, I think this will help the Bears potentially win a Super Bowl this year, and overall help that rebuild that they have just started to finish. Please like and subscribe. Follow for more content. Drop any thoughts you have in the comment section below. And have a good day. See you guys.